Okay, let's dive into this really striking article you shared about that recent glacier collapse in the Swiss Alps. It's pretty dramatic stuff.
It really is.
So our goal here is to use this text, the one you brought, to sort of unpack it all for you listening. What happened, what was predicted, maybe what wasn't, and why it's relevant.
Yeah, and the starting point, just the sheer scale. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Totally. So the article describes this huge chunk of glacier, right, loaded with rock and debris.
Exactly. Just detaching, sliding down, and essentially, well, burying an alpine village below it.
Buried. The text you found says it was, like, largely wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in the Valais region, south of Bern, Switzerland's capital.
That's right. But here's where the article gets really interesting. It makes it clear that scientists were actually watching this. They had predicted a disaster was, likely.
Okay, so it wasn't completely out of the blue.
Not completely, and the article explains why. They'd been observing more and more rock falls. From the mountain face directly onto the glacier, that was the big warning sign for them. Things were getting unstable.
And this is the part that just, wow. Based on that prediction, the authorities acted fast.
Mm-hmm. Decisively.
They evacuated the whole village, like all 300 people, moved out before the actual collapse on May 19th.
Yeah. The article even mentions details like airlifting livestock, sheep, cows, the works, by helicopter.
Incredible. So that scientific forecast plus the action taken, it absolutely saved lives. You see that power in the source material.
Definitely. That successful evacuation is, well, it's a key takeaway, no question.
There's a twist, right? The article brings out something else.
Yes, exactly. And there's a quote in there from a specialist, Christophe Lembiel, that really hits it home.
What does he say?
Well, he points out that while they predicted a disaster, because of the rock falls, the total collapse of the glacier itself, that scale.
That wasn't expected.
That wasn't predicted, no. He actually calls it the unthinkable, the catastrophic worst-case scenario. So they knew something was coming, but not the whole thing giving way.
Wow, and you can almost feel that unexpected scale from the descriptions of the aftermath. The article mentions the video footage.
Oh yeah, that went viral.
It describes this just massive cloud, rock, ice, dirt, billowing up. Some people compared it to an atomic bomb cloud.
It really paints a picture of that raw power, that unthinkable force Lambiel mentioned.
So let's connect this back for you listening. Why does digging into this article matter?
Well, I think it's a really stark example, isn't it? How climate change isn't just about, slow warming. It can destabilize things in complex ways.
Right, creating these kinds of amplified risks, especially in fragile places like mountains.
Exactly. And it also highlights the challenge of prediction, doesn't it? Science gave them enough warning for the evacuation, which is huge.
A massive success, really.
A massive success. But predicting the absolute final scale, the timing of something that catastrophic, that's still incredibly difficult.
So the source really underscores that need for preparedness, for listening to the warnings we do get from science, especially in these vulnerable spots.
Absolutely. Even with the unpredictable final outcome, acting on the science, they had made all the difference.
So summing up our dive into your article, there's this fascinating tension, isn't there?
Definitely. You have science enabling this life-saving action, the evacuation, a clear win.
But then you have the sheer power of nature, just exceeding even what the experts thought was possible.
Yeah. The ultimate scale was still a shock.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the limits of prediction when you're facing these huge accelerating natural forces.
Mm-hmm.
So for you listening, maybe the question is, how do communities in these situations balance that constant vigilance, the science we have, and the need to adapt when things can still unfold in, well, unthinkable ways?
Yeah, that's something to really chew on. How do we live with that uncertainty, even as our understanding grows?
Something for you to ponder.